In February 2006, somewhere along a remote highway between Alice Springs and Western Australia, Ricky Megee's life broke in two. He later said he offered a lift to a hitchhiker after sharing a drink. He blacked out. When he woke, he was naked, half buried beneath plastic sheeting in scrubland near the Tanami Desert. His car were gone. His phone and wallet were gone. Police would later say there was no evidence of assault, no confirmed attackers, no forensic proof of drugging. But what is not disputed is this: Ricky Megee was found 71 days later, weighing barely 45 kilograms alive, in one of Australia's harshest regions. The Tanami Desert spans more than 184,000 square kilometers across the Northern Territory and Western Australia. Daytime temperatures in late summer routinely exceed 40 degrees Celsius. Night temperatures can drop close to freezing. Water sources are seasonal and unreliable. Many areas receive less than 300 millimeters of rain annually. When Megee regained consciousness, he was already in severe dehydration. He had no reliable memory of how he arrived there. He began walking. There were no roads in sight, no fences, no visible cattle tracks, only spinifex grass, acacia scrub, and red earth, stretching flat to the horizon. Within hours, his skin began blistering under direct sun exposure. His feet burned against the ground. He would later say that in those first moments, confusion was more dangerous than fear, because confusion delays action, and in the Tanami, hesitation can be fatal. By the third day, the shock had burned off. What remained was thirst. Ricky Megee later described his tongue swelling so badly it felt too large for his mouth. His lips split. Urine turned dark, then nearly stopped. Dehydration in desert conditions can impair judgment within hours. Without water, the human body begins shutting down in as little as 72 hours under extreme heat. He walked anyway. He said he followed instinct rather than direction, moving at dawn and late afternoon to avoid peak heat. During midday, he tried to shelter under sparse scrub, digging shallow depressions in the earth to escape the sun. The plastic sheet he had awakened under became his only real tool. He used it for shade. Later, he would use it to collect rainwater. Food became secondary to water. He began eating insects first: ants, beetles, grasshoppers, anything small enough to catch without tools. Protein was less important than moisture. He chewed leaves, hoping for sap. Sometimes he sucked condensation from plants before sunrise. After days of wandering, he located a small dam used by cattle stations. The water was stagnant, muddy, likely contaminated with animal waste and parasites. He drank it anyway. In survival physiology, untreated water can introduce bacteria that cause severe gastrointestinal illness, but dehydration kills faster than infection. He built a crude shelter near the dam, branches over a shallow pit, the plastic sheet overhead when possible. At night, temperatures dropped sharply. Without clothing, hypothermia became a risk. He wrapped himself in whatever scraps remained. The desert did not feel dramatic. It felt indifferent. And indifference is harder to fight than violence. Weeks passed, though he did not know how many at first. Time in isolation bends. Without clocks, without conversation, days blur into cycles of heat and cold. Ricky later said he marked time by scratching lines into wood and dirt, trying to prevent his mind from unraveling. He lost weight rapidly. Medical staff would later confirm he had dropped over 30 kilograms, more than 60 pounds. His ribs became visible, his face hollowed, his muscles weakened to the point that standing too quickly caused blackouts. Yet his body adapted in small ways. Calluses formed on his bare feet from constant contact with hot ground. His beard grew thick, protecting parts of his face from direct sun. He fashioned a crude poncho from his remaining shirt to reduce exposure. Survival became less about strength and more about energy conservation. Psychologically, the strain intensified. Extended isolation is known to produce hallucinations, memory distortion, and paranoia. Ricky admitted later that he began talking aloud to himself, narrating his actions just to hear a human voice. He sang fragments of songs he barely remembered. He imagined conversations. He also described moments of near surrender. There were mornings he considered not standing up, but routine saved him. Each day had tasks: check the dam, gather insects, adjust shelter, look for tracks or aircraft. Creating structure is a documented survival strategy. It reduces panic and preserves cognitive function. The Tanami remained silent, no roads nearby, no visible stations, no engine noise, no aircraft overhead, only wind moving through spinifex grass and the occasional distant bird. Hope did not disappear, it narrowed. From rescue to water, from water to one more sunrise. By late March 2006, Ricky had been in the desert for more than 2 months. His world had contracted to a patch of scrubland near the dam, a plastic sheet, and the daily question of whether his body would cooperate for another day. The Tanami Desert covers roughly 184,000 square kilometers across the Northern Territory and Western Australia. In some stretches, you can travel for hours without seeing a single structure. He had wandered into one of those stretches. As his strength faded, he stopped trying to walk long distances. Movement burned calories he did not have. Instead, he focused on staying alive where he was. He collected rainwater when storms passed. He rationed every sip. He avoided walking during peak heat, knowing heat stroke would end him quickly. The nights were worse in a different way. Temperatures could drop close to freezing. Without adequate clothing, hypothermia becomes a real threat even in desert environments. He dug shallow depressions in the ground to shield himself from wind and used branches for insulation. Sand became both enemy and protection. His mental state fluctuated. There were moments of sharp clarity, when survival felt mechanical and almost calm. Then there were stretches of confusion, when the horizon shimmered, and he questioned whether he was still moving forward or circling the same ground. 70 days is long enough for the body to begin shutting down non-essential systems. 70 days is also long enough for the mind from normal fear. On April 5, 2006, that fragile equilibrium broke, not because he collapsed, because someone saw him. On April 5, 2006, a group of station workers from Barangaroo Station, near the Northern Territory, Western Australia border, were out on a routine job when something on the horizon moved. At first they assumed it was an animal, a stray cow, a kangaroo, something alive, but not human. As they drew closer, the shape resolved into a man, thin, sunburned, gaunt, barely upright. His skin was blistered, cracked and peeling. His lips were split. His eyes were distant but alive. He waved awkwardly, an uncertain rhythm. Born of exhaustion, they recognized distress at a glance. This was not a drunk. This was not a local. This was someone in severe medical crisis. They approached carefully, with water, with the urgency of trained responders who have seen dehydration kill before. The man spoke in fragments, disoriented, confused. He could not immediately say where he had come from or how long he had been alone. But when they gave him water, his reaction was visceral, not relief exactly, but genuine response. His throat had been dry for so long that the moisture itself was shocking. The workers radioed for help. The Royal Flying Doctor Service, Australia's aeromedical emergency system, arrived quickly. Ricky Megee was hoisted into a helicopter and flown to Royal Darwin Hospital. Doctors there described him as one of the most extreme cases of dehydration and starvation they had ever treated. He arrived weighing barely 45 kilograms, over 30 kgs lost from his baseline. He was hypothermic at night, severely malnourished, and had endured sunburn so deep that skin function was compromised. He had survived 71 days, in one of the most unforgiving climates on Earth, with no food, no shelter that mattered, and only sporadic water. His body should have failed him. It didn't. His mind nearly did, but he lived.